99X and the Morning X. It's Barnes and Leslie. You know, a couple of weeks ago, Fram and I were talking to Queen. And Queen is on, every week. And Queen just casually mentions that Jay Bakker had just stayed at the Queen's palace.
We're like, what?
Like, dude.
Why didn't you tell us that?
How do you not have him on even on your segment? And so the Queen put us in touch with him. And look, there he is. Hey, Jay, how are you?
Oh, I'm great. Great to hear you guys again. 20 some odd years later.
I know. And Jay, of course, is the son of Jim and Tammy Faye Bakker. And we had him on our show, probably 20 years ago, if not more.
Yeah.
And beyond that, before that, I actually met you and your mom together at Moe's over on Ponce.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Which freaked me out because I had never seen your mom in person. And I'm like, wow, that lady looks a lot like Tammy Faye Bakker. And it was.
And then it was, yes.
So welcome to the show. It's great to have you back.
Yeah, it's great to be back.
Now, Jay, when you were on the show like 20 years ago, what were you on for? I don't remember that part.
I was on your guys' show twice. And once we were promoting, I think once I was promoting my first book. And then the second time I was promoting this thing called Edge Fest, which was like this really big Christian music festival that we were doing. Yeah, and I think Mike Ness's song "I Was Wrong" just came out. It was the title of my dad's book, and I'm pretty sure you guys had my dad on, even if you don't remember. I'm pretty sure he was on because I remember I got there late.
Huh?
And you had already talked to him for a few minutes because I was listening as I was on my way. Yeah.
Well, I don't know how you, with all the things that have happened in your lifetime, my friend, I don't know how you keep any of those details straight.
Yeah. Well, it's funny because 99X was a big part of my life, and when I lived in Atlanta, you guys, I listen to you guys every day. So
that's very nice of you.
And
Thank you.
All the shows that you guys promoted. And then when I heard you guys were back on, I was like, no way. And they're like, asked if I could hook you up, if they could hook me up with you guys. I was like, of course.
Yeah. Well, I don't even like digging into your life is like a treasure trove of stuff because not many people's families are the subjects of documentaries and Academy Award-winning movies.
That's true.
Yeah.
And for someone like you who lived it, and I just don't even know where to start with you, but to begin with, how much of that early stuff, like what age were you when your parents were at the height of their game?
I was about 10 years old at the height. Everything fell apart when I was about 11.
Oh, okay.
Oh, wow.
So about 10 or 11 when we were really, everything was at its height. Yeah.
Where were you and how old were you when the movie came out, The Eyes of Tammy Faye with Jessica Chastain and Andrew Garfield?
Well, what was that, about 2 years ago?
Yeah, that was a couple years ago.
So I was probably 46. I'm 48 now.
Isn't that crazy? Did you consult on that?
I know. I was in my 20s when I met with you guys. So this is what's really insane. Yeah. I did consult just with Jessica a bit for the part, and with Andrew, we talked. And I didn't realize Andrew was even British because, I was thinking Spider-Man, and, and we got on the phone and I was like, oh, whoa. So that was really surreal. And they had me out to the premiere. But they also gave me a private showing at a theater, and that was really wild, So, I've had a crazy life, but, I still get surprised by some things. Yeah,
but your consulting led to Jessica Chastain getting an Academy Award. That is pretty satisfying.
Yeah, it is. I was glad to help, and she really kind of took on like this kind of mom vibe, when I was at the premiere. It was a little hard to watch with an audience, and so I left a few minutes early, and I get this text because there was an after party, so we were heading to the after party, and I get a text from her. She's like, honey, I noticed you left early. Are you okay? I was like, wow, this is like so bizarre, Jessica Chastain's making sure I was okay,
We're talking to Jay Bakker, of course, the son of Jim and Tammy Faye. When all of this was happening, as a child, did this movie, when the movie came out, The Eyes of Tammy Faye, did it bring back like all those memories? Was it hard to watch?
Well, I kind of live with those memories. So, but I did start seeing a psychoanalyst. I'd always wanted to see an analyst. And so when I found out the movie was coming out, I was like, I think it's time to deal with some things. So
Right.
So I kind of did that together, and tried to work some of that stuff out, which was actually very helpful. But yeah, so it's strange. It's also strange because, they have to, it's a 2-hour movie and they're fitting all this time in here. So the times and stuff are off. And like they had me being born in 1980. I was born in 75, but you just kind of have to kind of roll with the artistic view of how they do things.
What was your age at that time of the movie? You would have been what? Was that the 10, 11-year-old time?
No, I would have been
before?
11 or around 87. So
so much later.
Yeah. But, the movie takes place even into the 90s. So it was very, very interesting to watch, and of course, growing up, everything that's real and everything that's fiction and everything that like reporters said that was right and what was wrong. And, you kind of just have to hold your hands open a little bit with that stuff.
Jay Bakker is here, the son of Jim and Tammy Faye Bakker. He has a new project called Better Angels, The Gospel According to Tammy Faye, which debuted at Sundance to an electric response. And Elton John and Davis Furnish have executive produced this. Sounds like you're in good hands.
Yeah, it was really strange because me and two of my friends from Belfast, Ireland, strangely enough, came up with the idea like in 2016. And originally we were just going to do like an hour-long documentary with like philosophers and things talking about how my mom was able to kind of bring, like she could be in a room with drag queens and she could be in a room with conservative Christians and how she was able to do that. And then they were at a meeting with Vice. Vice picked it up. And I became more of a consultant at that point because you kind of have to let Vice have control. And but during that time, Elton John had written a play about my mother, a musical, and it was showing in London. And Elton and David, his husband, I became friends with David on Instagram. And David said, "Well, we got to fly you out to come see the show. We want to see what you think." And yeah, so they flew me out to London for a few days. And I got to hang out with Jake from Scissor Sisters because he also did some of the music for it, and got to see the play. And then, me and David just became great friends. And I was talking about this project that we were working on, and I wasn't supposed to show it to anybody, and it was a pre-edit. So I snuck it out and showed it to David. And David said, we want to help with this. And me and Elton want to get behind this.
You weren't pitching him. You were just sharing the story about what you were doing.
Yeah, because David, he travels so much. He's like, he can't sleep half the time. So I was like, well, I'm working on this project. Why don't I just, I'll just send it to you. You tell me what you think. Yeah, no, I wasn't pitching. We were just chatting.
How did Jessica Chastain come back into the picture again?
I just texted Jessica and said, listen, we're doing this thing about Mom. We would really love you to have be a part of it. And she was just really great. She's like, I would love to do it, and set up some time, and we were able to film it. So it was one of those things where we got really lucky. It was hard because I ended up doing some of the booking for the project. So there were certain people who I really wanted, like friends and family who we couldn't necessarily get, but we did get like people who were like enemies and friends and things like that. So we really got a real good cross section of people to come and do it. And having Jessica, of course, was, a highlight. And then Elton and David filmed a little spot for us to open it up at Sundance. And so that was,
that's
we didn't even realize, we didn't even know we would get to Sundance, I mean.
That's hard.
It's tough, yeah. And you guys are kind of getting an exclusive because I've talked to Vice and I was like, could you send them some stuff? And they're like, well, we don't really want to promote it until it's sold. So I was like, okay. But I asked for forgiveness, not permission.
Well, so it's a 4-part limited series, right? And you rolled out the first 2, and so it is not placed.
The first 2, yeah.
It's not placed yet?
Well, they're in talks.
Okay.
That's all I can say.
Well, it's going to end up somewhere. The whole how we're talking to Jay Bakker. How did your parents' scandal and the downfall affect your relationship with them? And not collectively, but each of them, I'm assuming, differently.
It did. The closest I've ever been to my father is when he was in prison.
Which was what years? What years is that?
So that was probably 89 to, I believe, 92.
And he's still alive now, right? Your dad's still alive?
Yeah, he's still alive now, yeah.
And why did you become close with him while he was in prison?
My father's a workaholic. And so when he was doing PTL, he was always building stuff. So he shot a show 5 days a week. He pastored church on Sunday. So he pretty much worked 6 days a week. And when he wasn't doing the show, Heritage USA had hotels, had a water park. So he was always in the midst of building things and making things happen. And so he was a very busy man, and unfortunately kind of missed out on some of my younger years.
I can see that. I did want to ask, because I can't really wait to watch this documentary or this docu-series, Better Angels, The Gospel According to Tammy Faye. Is this a redemption story for your mom?
Yeah, I feel like my mom's been it's almost been like a redemption tour, which has been really great, because the Eyes of Tammy Faye film was based off of World of Wonders' Eyes of Tammy Faye documentary, which RuPaul did all the voiceover stuff for that and the narration. So it's really been the gay community that's really been there for my mom and really encouraged people to take a different look. I think I can't really say what it is. I think people have to make up their own mind. But, you can tell that people still have the same ideas. A lot of people are stuck in that thought of well, I read this on Wikipedia. There was a review that came out, and the reviewer didn't even mention that he only saw half of the film. But he also was like, and Jim Bakker did this, and they did this, and they did this. And so we had to contact them and say, you've got like 5 facts wrong, and you didn't mention you only saw half the film. So you still got that kind of misconception that's there. And, people are like, oh, and then he said, oh, well, Jay Bakker was involved. I didn't have any control over the editing. I don't have any final say on anything. I was literally just saying, I can help consult, and there were times when I would go in with Vice and the directors and editors and argue with them. But, they had great fact checkers and things like that. So, you get what you get, and you kind of have to, I think it'll be up to people's views. I think it's going to be hard for people to accept, maybe we did get this wrong. And maybe we did misjudge these people.
There have been so many documentaries about these different churches and religions. Did you see The Way Down on HBO?
I have not seen that.
Wow. It's from Nashville. Brentwood church leader. Her name was Gwen
The Remnant
Grim
Church.
Shamblin?
Yes.
It was basically, you're fat and you need to do all these things and give me your money.
It was bizarre, but
that is very bizarre.
And then she died in the middle of filming the documentary. It's
wow.
Seriously,
died in a plane crash,
I'll check it out.
You need to go track this down, especially from where you come from. I think you will look at it and be like, geez.
Well, I've been pastoring pretty much a punk rock church for the last.
I remember
for like 30 years. For 30 years, I'm still doing it, and for me, I'm really into scholarship and philosophy is really influences my work more than anything, and trying to get this stuff right. And so, there's a lot of people who have abused this religion and abused Christianity to such a great extent. And some of it's just ignorance and out of just tradition and not knowing, biblical context or, things like that. And making a game out of it. So it's like, for me, I feel like I've been trying to reform this faith for 30 years and trying to help people see it in a different way. But having that connection to my family and all the assumptions that come along with that is crazy. It's hard to navigate.
That's what I was going to ask you, is how do you handle that criticism of not only having Jim and Tammy Faye Bakker as your parents and all that went, all the baggage that went with that, but also, as you just said, a pastor at a punk rock church. So you're going to get a lot, you know what I'm saying? You're going to get people who are going to be, do they bring stuff out on you in public and try to call you out or try to be aggressive?
Not really. Most people who've become familiar with my work over the years know that that doesn't really work for me. I mean, honestly, I don't like raising money. That's probably my least favorite part of running a nonprofit.
Yeah, that wouldn't go well.
Here's another baker having to ask for donations, but it's a nonprofit, so that's part of part of what you have to do, but it's not fun. But, we were in Brooklyn for 7 years. We met at Pete's Candy Store, which was this little bar in Brooklyn, which was just really great, and we met in bars when we were in Atlanta as well, Yeah. So we met at the Masquerade for a long time.
Wow. Rest in
my
peace.
My mom actually spoke at my mom spoke at the Masquerade. I always say that my mom got me to heaven because we always met either in hell or purgatory. And when she spoke,
wow.
she got us to heaven, so that was nice.
Curious how your dad's doing.
He's he does TV, and we don't really talk that much. I don't watch his show because it's kind of not my speed. And plus, I just, I have 2 kids. I have a 6-year-old and an 8-year-old, and I'd rather talk to him as a grandpa and a dad than, disagree about theology and philosophy.
Understand.
He has a show?
Yeah.
On what channel?
Yeah. I don't know what channel it is. It's a Christian show. I don't know. You'd have to. He's really obsessed with the end of the world and he's kind of what do they call him, a prepper?
Oh, he's a doomsday prepper.
He is a prepper, and you should see his. Yeah, I haven't been to his house in years, but last time I was there, so me and him don't obviously see eye to eye. I mean, I will say when COVID first hit, I was a little like, oh my God, was he right? But we survived COVID.
Man, your life, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, best of luck.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Let us know guys. When you get a deal for Better Angels, the Gospel According to Tammy Faye. Please let us know. Yeah. Because we're looking forward to seeing it.
Yeah.
I've seen clips, but I haven't seen the whole thing.
Love to have you back on.
Well, yeah. Well, that would be great. And if you keep up with me on Instagram, I kind of try to update everybody regularly on there as well with the project. Awesome. So, but I'll definitely let you know.
Well, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me, guys. Great to be back.